Welcome to Shiloh Farm. You may need to come in here and just rest a little bit. Not because, you're restless in the Lord. It's because you're tired in your body. And you want to just come in here and say, wow, I need a glass of iced tea or a cup of caffeine like coffee. I need something to refuel me. Will you come on in here and prop your feet up and let's do it? And we can do it together. I want to talk to you about something today that we normally just really don't talk about. It's just not a popular subject in the Christian world, which it should be. But when Peter was admonishing the church, he was writing a letter to the Christians because the reign of Nero was about to come and great persecution was going to come to the church. And so he knew that, and he knew what great persecution was for himself because he had been in all kinds of persecution because of and suffering because of his following and his preaching the gospel. And so he was writing to the church and he was preparing them, talking to them about, how to prepare for this. And I want to start with you in 1 Peter, the 5th chapter, and this is in the new, in the new, I can't even think. The New Living Translation. I couldn't even think why I use so many, and that's good because I get the chance to, get the vibes of other writers, and it comes down to my elementary level. But anyway, he was writing to the church, and he pulled out the elders and the young men, and he said, "Listen, I want you to be an example." Because when persecution comes, I want you to be an example of your faith, of your strength. Be a good shepherd. Follow the word, follow his commands, be obedient. And he says, watch over the flock. Don't do it grudgingly. Don't do it out of spite, because you have to. Do it because you have a willing spirit and not to get anything out of it or for yourself or to gain anything for yourself. But he says, do it because you're eager for God. And he says, you young men, you do the same thing and let the elderly be the example. Now, he comes over here and he says, listen, you want to receive a crown of unending glory and honor when the good shepherd comes, when Jesus comes. You want to be rewarded for the good things that you've done and the examples that you've shown. And then he says, and all of you, that's including us, but he says, and all of you dress yourselves in humility as you relate to one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time, he will lift you up in honor. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares for you. Now, I want to talk to you today about what he said. He said, dress yourselves in humility. Oh, we don't hear that now. A lot of preachers don't like to preach that because, it brings it home, brings it to reality. And it brings it into the right perspective of what God wants for us. And humility means to dress yourself in humility. It means to empty yourself of pride in order to honor and to serve the Lord. God is displeased with pride. Pride tells God, move out of the way, I can do this. I don't need your help. I don't need anybody else's help. And I'm doing a great job. Well, we'll see how that works down the road. It's just like when you're driving and someone passes by you and acts like they're road rage and they're mad because they're passing you. And they're speeding like crazy down the road. You see them pulled over and you think, well, look what you were doing. Also, humility means modesty in behavior. Being careful. Being careful in your behavior and doing it God's way. Another thing is attitude or spirit. Not being arrogant, not being prideful, not acting like you walk into the room and you own it, because you don't. Not acting like you walk in and I need that seat. Could you move over because I should belong there and not you? And arrogant, being humble means to intentionally, on purpose, make yourself low and less of a person by being under submission. Well, that's going to change some things for some of you. It's going to change some things. It's like, I don't want to do that because I've worked so hard to get where I am. I don't want to do that. And it says to be in a surrendered life and preferring others above yourself. Now, I know some's not going to listen to this devotion. There are some that's going to cut this off. There's some that would not dare want to hear this today because they're saying, I'm who I am. I made myself. I've arrived, and I don't need to be humbled. And I want to tell you, you're the very one that God will humble. And he uses all kinds of tools, all kinds of people, and all kinds of things to do that. When you think that you have arrived, God shows us that we are dust. We are nothing without him. And so he says that God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And this part right here, it says, so humble yourself. Just take the time to do it. Clothe yourself with humility every day. You know, I say, God, I want to thank you for where you've brought me, but I want to clothe myself and humble myself, bow myself before you in humility. Please clothe me with that clothing of humility. The reason that I do is because I don't want to lose anything God has for me. I don't want to lose one thing, not one part of his presence, his benefits, his blessings. I don't want him to hide his face from me. Neither do you. And it says, so humble yourself under the mighty hand of God. And at the right time, when you are in a place of surrender to him, at the right time, and Peter had to write this to the church because he knew what was fixing to come. And he says, so if you humble yourself, be under submission to God, be less of a surrender, be less of a person being clothed with his humility and letting others be better than you. He says, then, when your worries and your cares come and your persecution come, he says, then I'm going to lift you up and he's going to care for you. Now, why would he next have to write this to the elders and to the young men and to all of us? He says, stay alert, verse 8. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour, for someone to destroy, to steal, to kill, to take life from, to attack and try to make them less of a person. Well, if you're humble in God, you are already less of a person, but you're great in the hands of God. And he says, stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. You cannot. What he was trying to tell them is that you got to be strong in your faith, but you can't be strong in your faith if you're arrogant. You can't be strong in your faith if you're prideful. If you think you've got it all together, you can't stand firm in your faith because you don't even have a faith. Because your faith is not in God. Your faith is in you, your strength, your own ability. And God is saying, that's not how I want you to live. I want you to be clothed, dressed up in humility. I went to a rodeo last night. And I'm telling you, man, there was some cowgirls, there was some cowboys. We all cowboyed and cowgirled up. We all dressed up. There was 12 of us that went. And I want to tell you something. It was good and it was clean fun and it was great, man. Seeing them bull riders and seeing them bronc riders. I mean, it was just a great time. And I enjoyed myself and I fit the part. I was dressed with them. But you know what? I didn't act like some of them. I did my actions unto the honor of God. I didn't mingle and you couldn't tell apart. I mean, I might have been dressed like a cowgirl, but you know what? There's sometimes God says you have to be separated. You have to be different. And the difference is because of the persecution and the warfare of believers. And he says, so you got to be strong in your faith. Got to be dressed in humility, but you got to be strong in your faith. And he says, remember that your family believers all over the world is going through the same kind of suffering you are. He was fixing to prepare them. He was telling them persecution's coming, Nero's coming, and he's a hard taskmaster. And he said, I know what persecution is, so I know what it's going to take. And the enemy's going to come and try to huff and puff and blow your house down. And he says, so you're going to have to be strong in your faith, but you can't be strong in your faith when you've got other things tied to you, dressed to you, subject to you. And that is, he says you've got to be under submission to the power of God. And you got to be an example to others. And then did you hear the part, what he said? He says that all other believers all over the world are going through this. And so you're not alone. You think right now what you're going through, nobody else has ever gone through it. You think what you're going through, nobody else has suffered. He says there's all kinds of believers all over the world going through it. It may be a tad different. It's a different person that you're dealing with. It's a different situation that you're dealing with, but everybody is going through that. And so Peter wanted to build the church up, but he says how you build the church up to face persecution, to face illnesses, to face divorce, to face financial problems, to face problems with your children, and to face addiction, and the list goes on, is that you've got to be dressed in humility. You got to say, God, I got to do it your way or no way. I got to do it that's pleasing to you, because if I don't, it's not going to work. Sometimes we can get so blessed and we get to a place. I just heard recently someone said, that was a good man. But when he started getting money, when he started getting wealthy, he went down. He couldn't handle it. He started acting arrogant, started pushing people around, threatening people around. And he lost. I want to tell you something. I don't want to be that way. I want to be balanced. God hates a false weight. He hates a false, but he loves a just balance. He hates a false balance. He hates something that you're either this or you're either that. He likes a balance. And so that's why Peter, when he approached the Christians, he said, I know what's coming. But I know what's coming. You can't go and think that you're going to tackle this battle and you're going to fix this. And these boys are big. That devil's big. And you can't do it in your own mind. And you can't do it in your faith, in your great faith. If you're struggling over here with pride and arrogance, you just can't do that. You say, now, Miss Phyllis, why are you talking about that today? Because I've seen a lot of prideful pastors. I've seen a lot of prideful preachers in my time, in 46 years of ministry, that they were too good to associate with you. They didn't have the time of day to counsel you. They didn't want to take your telephone call. They didn't want to shake your hand at the door. They didn't have to. They just delivered a message. And they don't have to. They can live any way they want to. And they think they can get by. They're not getting by. They're not getting by. And then not only that, but among the people in the church world, the saints of God, there's those who are, I'm better than you because I'm a certain color. I have a certain bank account. I drive a certain car. I live in a certain area in Wayne County. I'm better than you. And that's arrogance and that's pride. No, I can't help you. That's what some people say. I can't help you because you're not of my status. You're not spiritual enough to hang with me. Man, those things are wrong. Those things are wrong. And that's why I'm talking about this today. Because if you're dressed in humility, you don't see color. If you're dressed in humility, you don't see, you may see a person's sin, but you see their need more than you see their sin. When you're dressed in humility and you see someone struggling, you reach in your pocket and you hand out. You see them struggling, you text them, you give them a call, you send them a card. You go over there to their house and take them something. You lay hands on them and you pray for them. That's what it means to be clothed with humility, that you are less than that person, that you bring that person above you. You honor that person more and you excel that person better than you do yourself. And so let's dress with humility. A lot of us is going to church today. A lot of folk is going to enter those doors. Are you dressed to impress? Or are you dressed to be clothed in humility and honor God? And in return, God honors you. You think about that. You have a great, wonderful day. This old girl loves you. God bless you.